We got the journalists doing a digital walkout at the New York Times, and workers are rising up all over this country in every sector, from nurses and coal miners, Amazon workers, Starbucks partners, teachers, and journalists. What are they asking for? Higher pay, better benefits, better work conditions. It is what all workers are asking for. And today, journalists at the New York Times are engaged in a digital strike. Let's put this up from Amanda Hess, her tweet from yesterday. Yesterday, Amanda Hess, she's a critic at large at the New York Times and the vice president of the News Guild of New York. This is a union for media workers. She posted this: "We are asking readers to not engage in any at New York Times platforms tomorrow and stand with us, tomorrow being today, with us on the digital picket line. Read local news. How about that? Listen to public radio. Make something from a cookbook. Break your wordly streak." And that's coming from, again, from Amanda, who is the vice president of the News Guild of New York. That is right. We can do that. Stand in solidarity. Let's put up this headline: New York Times poised for first mass staff walkout in 40 years. Day-long action comes as union and management clash over wages and remote work. And so the New York Times is bracing for a 24-hour walkout on today by hundreds of journalists and other employees in what would be the first strike of its kind at the newspaper in more than 40 years. This reporting is coming from the Associated Press through The Guardian. Newsroom employees and other members of the News Guild of New York say they are fed up with bargaining that has dragged on since their last contract expired in March of 2021. The union announced last week that more than 1,000 employees would stage a 24-hour work stoppage starting at 12:01 a.m. on Thursday, that is today, unless the two sides reached a contract deal. They go further. Negotiations lasted for more than 12 hours into late Tuesday and continued on Wednesday, but the sides remain far apart on the issue, including wage increases and remote work policy. So as of last night, so the workers were planning to march out today. They're asking people to not read the New York Times to help them with this digital strike. And the management of the New York Times, instead of saying, hey, let's try to work this out, they said they are prepared and they're gonna bring in journalists from other countries who may not have the same union connections as the journalists here in the United States. Mike, this is just another example of workers rising up all over the country, and I love to see it.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of those stories that gives me hopium, because as dysfunctional as our government is and as state governments are, the rise of labor in the United States really is something that we all should be watching, because this is huge. And the New York Times management is saying the same thing that management always says in response to a strike. They're trying to make it seem as if the workers themselves are victimizing the readers, hence why they have to bring in these international reporters, i.e. scabs. But listen, folks, don't cross the picket line. I don't know how many people read the New York Times regularly, but I know a lot of people on my feed play Wordle, and just don't. Give it a day. Stand in solidarity. And this is my advice to everyone. Like, it's very difficult in a capitalist system to organize a boycott, but one thing that you can always do to show solidarity is never ever cross that picket line. I can't stress that enough. So in the event you have a local Starbucks that is organizing, don't go there. Go to a local coffee shop instead. These are small actions that we can take that make a huge difference. And it doesn't seem like it, but it really does. So standing in solidarity with workers as they push for better pay, better working conditions is always something that we can easily do, because we're technically not doing anything. We're just choosing to not engage with that platform or buy the product. So yeah, labor is on the rise in America, and in every single sector we're seeing it. And this is a sign that's very positive, needless to say.
Yeah, it is. I'm loving it. Finally, I mean, the uprising is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Workers are tired, they're not gonna take it anymore. Than 98% of us, 98%, and we are all in the same boat when it comes to that, because 98% of us, people who have to work for a living, and some of us may be from a salary perspective at the top of that working class, some in the middle and some at the bottom. But baby, if you ain't got a sugar daddy or sugar mama or sugar somebody, you work for a living. And we gotta be in solidarity with our sisters and brothers and family and friends. So go ahead on, News Guild of New York, do what you do.